2-5, y'all. Like, review, subscribe. Excuse me, I'm a little bit under the weather. You can probably see it in my eyes, but we gonna get through this. So, college football starts this weekend. Week 0. Are you excited? Notre Dame and Ireland taking the show over against Navy. That should be a good game. I got high hopes for it. Me and Mr. Logical will get into a preview on Thursday, but just know that I am aware, and I hope that you are, and I hope I just made you aware if you weren't. But in the meantime, we know that TCU came out of nowhere last year. Nobody outside of, I heard Bud Elliott from the Cover 3 podcast. Shout out to them, best college football show going right now. They Bud Elliott put a ticket in for TCU to win the Big 12. But even that was only because of what the odds were. I don't think he truly believed that TCU was going to go do this, right? But anyway, Sonny Dykes comes in, from crosstown SMU after the Gary Patterson era. You never want to follow a legend, but if you're going to follow a legend, you got to do it the way that he did it, baby. He comes in. Chandler Morris is supposed to be the starter, gets hurt. Max Dugan comes in, previous TCU quarterback with a little bit of injury history himself. He comes in, and they have an undefeated regular season. Who knew? Now granted, their schedule wasn't necessarily the toughest per se, but you know what? You need some circumstance on your side if you go and do what they did last year. So they got to the Big 12 championship game and lost to Kansas State in overtime. And we knew Kansas State was a bad matchup. 2-5 picked Kansas State last year over TCU in that game because Kansas State had a 28-10 lead in Fort Worth against TCU during the regular season, and it was just a bad matchup. But that's in the past. We're talking about 2023 now. Is there a TCU amongst us? Now, I'm going to say more than likely no. And why? Because you have to have some qualities to be a TCU. So, like, say, for example, I like Wisconsin. Luke Fickell coming in, Phil Longo coming in as the offensive coordinator. But I think Wisconsin is a big enough school that we know that they're talented, and we wouldn't necessarily be surprised if they pull the TCU. Looking at their schedule, they got Ohio State and Iowa. Everything else, they should be favored in. As I look around the country, who in the SEC is going to step up? Like it would have to be Ole Miss or Mississippi State or Vandy, Kentucky maybe. But even Kentucky's been good the last 10 years or so. So now I'm looking around the country trying to find this team. So now I go to the Pac-12. I'm big on Oregon State. I told you I think they're going to beat Washington in the regular season, make it to the Pac-12 title game, lose to Washington in the rematch. So obviously that doesn't meet the criteria of what I'm talking about. So there's one team that has my eye. That team, drumroll, is the Louisville Cardinal out of the ACC. Why is it Louisville? I'm going to give you a couple of reasons why. One, they finally have a good head coach. So, we remember Louisville from the Bobby Petrino days. Remember Rutgers, Louisville, ESPN, Statue of Liberty, lit red. That was must-see TV. That was a very long time ago. Rutgers is in a whole new conference. Louisville's in a new conference since that game happened. But, Louisville has a coach now. Kenny Satterfield leaves a lot to be desired, to be honest, in my eyes. But they went and got Brian Brohm, who, if nothing else, he cares about Louisville because that's the alma mater. So he's going to come in with his offensive philosophy and shake the foundation of that university, much like Sonny Dykes did. All right. So not only that, he's coming in with Jack Plummer from Cal, 47 touchdowns, 19 interceptions, 64% career completion percentage. So he's got the quarterback. So now you got the offensive coach with his quarterback, right? Excuse me. So now They brought in some transfers that I really like. Storm Duck, for example, Killer Brew from Texas A&M, part of that big recruiting class that got Nick Saban all up in a tizzy. Plummer I just mentioned. But the biggest thing is their schedule. No North Carolina, no Florida State, no Clemson. So what do they have? So they start off. They got 2 neutral site road games this year. I don't know how they pulled that off, but they're going to start with Georgia Tech at the Mercedes-Benz Georgia Dome, play Murray State, Indiana at Lucas Oil Field, and then Boston College. Then it gets tough. They got their 2-game stretch, September 29th and October 7th at NC State and against Notre Dame at home. Now, if they get through NC State, and even if they don't, that place is going to be rocking for Notre Dame to come through there. And Notre Dame better be on their P's and Q's or they could get upset. Now, with that being said, we go to November 18th through the 25th because after the Notre Dame game, it gets really light again. But then they close at Miami, and we don't know what Miami's going to be. Is Mario Cristobal going to, for lack of better words, crap the bed again? Is Tyler Van Dyke going to look like what we saw from him 2 years ago? And then they close with Kentucky, which is going to be tough, but it's at home. So, best case scenario in my eyes is 11-1. Obviously, if they could get to 12-0, that would be great. But 11-1, best case scenario, and then you go play Florida State or Clemson in the ACC championship game if you can navigate that. And all you got to do is win one game. And there you have your TCU. Not very likely, but I think that's the choice.